Let's give a big hand for Samriddh Dasgupta, CMO, Heads Up for Tails. A very warm welcome to you, Samriddh. Please have a seat at the dais. Please join me in welcoming Punit Chahar, Asia Head of Digital and Performance Marketing, OLX Group. A very warm welcome to you, Punit. Gopa Menon, Digital Head, Mindshare, South Asia. Thank you so much for joining us, Gopa. Please have a seat. Please put your hands together for Udit Malhotra, Head of Marketing, MG Motor India. Hi, Udit. Thank you so much for coming over. Please have a seat, and let's welcome our moderator, who will be bringing out all the perspectives and driving this conversation forward. Shaveen Garg, Managing Director and Partner, BCG. A very warm welcome to you, Shaveen. Please be seated. Over to you now.
The topic is our beloved performance marketing. I think around 2 decades ago, the performance marketing came to existence with this concern, which most advertisers had, that we don't know where the money is being spent, so we need to know whether this is generating value. So we want to pay for outcomes. You get the outcome, we will pay you. And that was the genesis of performance marketing. 2 decades now, and I work with a lot of my clients, and we were chatting on the side. Is this question really answered in performance marketing? Is it still giving you, or is the question on ROI on performance marketing known? Does it solve that purpose? How it has evolved is what we will talk about in this panel. So thanks a lot for discussing this in advance. A lot of that discussion started when we were planning for this session in the speaker's room. But let me get started. I think on this topic of performance marketing, the first thing comes to is the measurement of the ROI, which is the genesis of this whole element. Maybe if I can start with you, and how do you think about measuring the performance? Is it what the metrics are? We all know about in this privacy first world, all the cookies not being the reason for attribution anymore. How do you measure it, and how do you see it moving forward?
I'm going to break this up in the most concise way I can. One, you have to be very clear about what is it that you wanted to measure when you ran the campaign.
Yep.
I think a lot of us, in hindsight and retrospect, start to think about what needs to be measured, and that has to change fundamentally. Second is that we are an omni-channel brand which has 3 fronts. We run an app, we run a website, and we run a retail front. When you start to look at the attribution models across each of them, the cookie pollution is not something that we are really worried about at this moment, because we are privileged to have a certain set of first-party data. But having said that, for brands who don't have first-party data, the cookie challenge is a very deeply problematic challenge to solve for. The way I would break it down is the following. One, be clear about the source of traffic that you want to get in, because not all traffic is good traffic for you, which hence means that you fundamentally need to be very clear about what kind of cookie pools do you really want to start remarketing to, what do you want to nurture, what kind of content pools are you creating to make sure that that cookie enablement is there. Second is try to find as much of a persistent cookie as you can, as opposed to session cookies, if that's possible in today's world. And I think that is, right? So because there's a lot more login that's happening, people want longer content forms, so hence you're building deep funnels where people are moving through different kinds of interactions. I think the maturity that is there now in the ecosystem, as opposed to, and you started with the 2 decade back conversation. 2 decades back, we were potentially all solving for Facebook likes and Orkut pages. A lot has changed since then, right? And also what's changed, of course, is the consumer himself and herself. I see a lot of younger folks coming in. They are cross-device, cross IPs, and you potentially can't just have a single unit of mapping. So again, you need that unique identifier, which for me is having a persistent session cookie that you can build through the entire funnel, till we don't come to a cookieless world, where if you don't have the first party data, then you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I'm going to pause and I'll hand that over.
No, as you mentioned, I think the intelligence which is required for running the performance management campaigns well enough comes from many sources, and those sources are expanding, right? Earlier it used to be the big platforms, obviously the Googles and Metas of the world, but now the first party data, as you mentioned, needs very important. But are there other places which you are seeing, maybe if I can ask you, and if you are thinking about improving the efficiency of your marketing campaigns around performance? How are you adding more insights, more value to them than before?
See, I think, and what we've observed, so firstly, MG has just been 4 years into the country. So one advantage, one distinct advantage MG has is we've built everything from scratch. So, when you were talking about measurement, and we discussed this, it is garbage in, garbage out. So the benefit that MG has is, one, whatever is our audience data, whatever we've acquired over the last 4.5 years, whether through leads, inquiries, bookings, we've acquired them bottom up and the system is clean. So the fundamental here is when we are working on the measurement of a campaign, for us, we are actually revolving around a lot of closed ecosystems even till now. The dependency on volume of inquiries, which is Facebook leads, Instagram, Google, is still predominant. But what we've been doing with a lot of players, including smaller ecosystem players, is working on a pure play cost per sale model, where the cohort data, LTV value of the customers, and audience insights are predetermined and we are getting an assured result. So one is 4 years of data, which we've learned, where there is some amount of predictive analysis telling that I will get these many bookings in a month, this will be my cost per booking, this will be my cost per retail. But the other platforms that are there are the smaller ones who are ready to work with a lesser amount of pool, but they would guarantee you results. But majority, 80% still relies on these walled garden ecosystems. And the last concluding part is that when we started our journey, we were very heavy on Martech, and we anyways, present ourselves as an auto tech brand. So in the Martech curve, we onboarded the entire Adobe stack for a full funnel perspective. So from the time you're coming on to the website till the time you are becoming an identified user in the ecosystem, we are mapping that entire journey. So that holistic analysis also has helped us from being unidentified to identified to, let's say, a prospect or a booking or a sale in the ecosystem. So those are some of the efficiencies that we're trying to work on.
Now, if I could ask from a agency perspective now, the performance marketing as it has been evolved over, and we talked about first party data, we talked about using different smaller platforms which have higher quality outputs. How are you seeing it from your side and across brands, across category of brands, how it has evolved?
So I think both of Samriddh as well as Udit actually talked in detail in terms of how they have seen, and I think we've seen, and I think it is kind of uniform across. What we're seeing from client one definitely is the importance of performance marketing. Second is obviously looking at the data. So importance of first party data is again coming through. We are having increasing conversation in terms of how we are able to actually bring sanctity to data, can we create CDPs, or talking about data lakes as well. So that's the kind of conversation that most of the clients are now getting into. The other part is from a measurement perspective, where definitely I think different multi-touch studies or multi-attribution studies, cross-channel studies are now being asked or rendered or being deployed for us to actually get to know whether performance is working, not working, what is the measurement objective, what should we be actually measuring as well. You started off stating that are we measuring the right thing as well. I think again, when we start off with the right objective and we are measuring it through the funnel, I think that works.
Okay, great. And I think as we keep talking about performance marketing, it's almost as it's an antithesis to brand marketing. And these days, if you think of performance marketing only as a lower funnel generation engine and not thinking of brand in that same context, it is something which has been at least in my client conversations, it has been a diverse view of people thinking of two different funnels. One is a brand marketing, I'll spend mass market, or even digital, but then there is this performance marketing. Maybe if I can ask your opinion, how are you seeing that? Are they different? Are the lines are blurring between the two? How do you see that?
So like you started, in your opening remark, 2 decades back, that was not the problem. So how performance marketing started? There was growing concern of understanding how your marketing investment is performing. Hence, the performance marketing came into the picture, where you can measure the incremental business through profitable and measurable channels. Till here it was fine, but then more and more channels, came into the picture, and hence it became, complicated, because you not only have more channels, then you have more screens as well.
Correct.
Not all the channels will behave same. They have their own, pros and cons. Like there are pull channels, there are push channels, and you need different strategy and different ways, to measure the performance as well. When generally, how people define, performance, maybe it is somewhere mid to bottom funnel. There are already audience in the, that category, and you are just converting those audiences. However, if I give this example, there is like you have the tap, that is your performance marketing, but you will get the water only till there is water in the tank. Now to fill that tank, you need to make investment at the top of the funnel. Now the question is, now because there is enhanced focus on frugality, because the growth at any cost is not the norm anymore. Hence there are questions about how my brand marketing investment is performing. And there are growing concerns about, okay, maybe earlier it was like, okay, we will make the spend now and we will have the brand grown in next 2 years, this and that. That is not acceptable now.
Yeah.
Digital has evolved a lot in terms of measurements, and when it comes to digital side of top of the funnel investment, there are means and ways to measure what is the impact of your brand focused investment on overall conversion, but also on your performance marketing as well. We did this exercise internally when we did our first TV plus digital brand campaign, and we measured the performance and its impact on performance marketing. And from those learnings, then we pivoted more towards digital, because it was making sense for us. We have presence in some 10, 12 cities where the business, most of the business is coming from. Hence, it does not make sense for us to go pan India, using TV. So, for different brand, at what stage the brand is, the media mix will be very different. You want to create and grow the category, or you just want to convert the people who are already there in the category.
Yeah. And you talked about complexity, which did not exist earlier, but now exists. And I wanted, because your brand actually has complexity of both the online, offline. There is retail stores, there are people who are there is marketplaces, all of these complexities, and consumer has all these intertwined, like they will watch it on Instagram, but chat on a WhatsApp, get influenced by somebody on Instagram, but visit a store. Is it really complex in your mind if you have all the data, or do you feel that it is just about how do you look at it?
Just the way you said it, it seemed really complicated.
Yeah, that's a genesis of that.
No, it's complicated. It's complicated because of a couple of reasons. And this has nothing to do with marketing or the growth side of it or how you're spending media, whatever it is, right? One, my customer and my consumer are completely different. So hence there is a reflection of what the consumer is feeling, consumer is going through, and then that gets manifested into how customers are choosing, right? So it's a double layer challenge for a business like ours. Second is because we are very rich with the first party, and I'm sorry I'm coming back to that point, but it adds to complexity also. It's not that it makes life extremely easy. People expect us to be able to deliver more personalized experiences. So if you don't have that, then that's okay. But as a par for the course, you potentially have my data, you know where I'm shopping, how I'm shopping, what is my behavior, you know everything about my dog or my cat. How can you not give me something that is deeply personalized, deeply meaningful? How can you show me ads that are not relevant to me? How can you remarket to me? If I have a cat and you remarket it to me with a dog product, then there's fundamentally something wrong with you. If I have a female dog and you're showing me a male dog, then there's something wrong with you. the expectations of people over a period of time has become extremely difficult to handle. So potentially that's another challenge that brands will need to look at when they start to look at cross-attribution and sort of cross-content being created, which will be deeply personalized. So that's one problem. Second is to your larger question, that how do we make sure that there is a standardization of attribution across all these channels? The identifier has to be one. Yeah. And I think a lot of businesses spend a lot of time, effort, money, bandwidth on getting a lot of consumer data. The usable part of that consumer data is potentially only a sliver of what you've got. So first solve for that. So if you know what your unique identifier is going to be throughout your customer journey, then solve for that. Make sure that there is as much authenticity, validation of that one unique identifier, which in our case is a phone number. So let's assume that if I never do an OTP verification of that phone number, I will have a bunch of data which is completely wrong, right? But, so as mentioned, right, garbage in, garbage out, I have to remove that from the system. So for us to potentially start removing that from the system, we have to rely on some degree of a validation layer, some degree of an authenticity layer, so that we know that that unique identifier which crosswalks across an app to a website to the retail where we have both product and we have service, how do I make sure that you're mapped through the ecosystem? Yeah. Right? So that unique identifier is fundamentally critical.
Got it. And no conversation in this agent world is complete without talking about artificial intelligence. And if I could add generative artificial intelligence. I wanted to get opinion actually from two different, the marketeer side and the agency side on this. And that itself is a spectrum. There is AI in a box kind of solutions, which are all these platforms have, give us the data, give us the money, we will optimize on its own, AI in a box, versus all of these solutions which are pocket solutions where you're optimizing for whether it is content personalization, whether it is about identifying the digital twin, etc. Where do you see value, right? If you were to put your bet on it, it will evolve as it evolves. But if I was to ask your opinion, where are you putting, what's your bet on what will succeed, or how will it change how you do performance marketing because of this new tools or machine learning abilities of AI? So maybe if I could ask yours first and then your opinion on this, please.
So I'll answer this in two parts. Specifically for brands, one is the buzzword on Gen AI where people are using Mid-Journey, Leonardo.ai and the likes. Yeah. So one is the performance part, which you asked, but I think the first set where performance is getting enabled, and when we talked about is brand essential or performance, I think both are hand in glove. So here, the first part is how is Gen AI solving for creative needs of a performance marketing campaign? And there are a lot of products in the ecosystem where if you're running a Facebook campaign or any other kind of campaign, they are dynamically changing the AI, maybe let's say taking A/B test to a next level, doing real-time suppression of the creative, so on and so forth, where it is solving for calling an agency saying, I need this creative right now. Maybe it's dynamic text, maybe it's dynamically changing the background and whatnot. Yeah. Now, AI has always been there when it came to all these big platforms or the walled garden platforms, whether it's search, whether it's social, and that's the reason we used to heavily rely on that intent data. One conclusive point, at least that I have arrived at, and this is my personal opinion, AI can only give you directional intelligence. It can help you enable directional intelligence, and after that, you need human intervention to solve for the complete puzzle. So for my enablement, for my knowledge enrichment, and let's say 20-25% efficiency at this stage in today's era, it may be solving that amount of problem. The third use case, even for AI ML, which I am seeing to evolve really fast, is AI and automation at hyperlocal level. So we discussed briefly prior to our panel where we used to run hyperlocal. it's still being run by people at pin code level, at outlet level, generating calls, generating ads. But as you are seeing, there are more and more platforms that are saying that, okay, let my layer of AI sit on the top, learn it from your business manager, learn it from your Google's ad account, and let us run the campaign. So it's a trial and error approach, but there are emerging platforms, at least in auto, where hyperlocal inquiry generation is doing really, really well. But the same products are not working in certain other categories or even in certain markets. So for example, North may be a very big market where my hyperlocal AI campaign is scaling up. Vis-a-vis, let's say South has a market where it's not able to scale up. Now the reason can be, let's say, regional language, ability to understand nuances, ability to decode the Gen AI capabilities or the AI capabilities that are there for, let's say, regional languages. So it's partly solving, still evolving, but we are definitely doing some pilots in this area for trial and error as well.
So as I heard it, it's AI always existed. These are some fancy tools which will add a few percentage efficiency, but it will always need human direction, and it can only give you, I like your statement you said, it will only give you a directional input. That's your view. Okay. How do you see that?
So coming from an agency where I think humans are, we can't actually throw humans for each and every problem in that sense, right? And we are always struggling for that headcount or that particular piece. I think AI is a good addition, and I agree to that in that sense, stating that always been there, be it in Google and Meta. But now you have different products which are available, which you can use. As from an agency or a client perspective, what we've been seeing is that we have been using AI right from insight generation to bid optimization to if you want to actually do creative optimization at scale, creation of creatives as well. All of this is happening, and you are able to do this at scale. Time is actually being reduced with half the human effort that is required. Is it still there? I don't think so. Has it reached that potential? No. But I think it will eventually get there as we are actually growing and learning in that sense. But obviously, again, agreeing to this, it can't be 100% AI. It has to have a human layer always. Otherwise, obviously, we have seen multiple examples, cases within our ecosystem as well, where things have gone down south in that sense, right? But definitely an enabler. It gives a very good directional inputs. We are able to use that and try and see how we are able to scale up. Right, either again, as I said, right, if you're optimizing for CAC, if you're actually optimizing for better creative, if you want to do UAT testing, AB testing, anything possible, I think AI is able to do it in Jiffy, which you could have would have taken. For example, if you want to do a research, you would have to actually call a research agency and get it done. Now it is happening in Jiffy at a fraction of cost. So in that sense, it's a very handy tool to have, but it will evolve as we move.
If you were to put a number on, it's working, no, it's not. If you were to put a number on, as you said, efficiency, both of you would, and this has been the hottest debate in town, right? Content creation can be done in Jiffy. The A/B testing can be done in Jiffy, which used to take a lot of time. Research agencies used to take a lot of time. And iterations on these, which used to be like, not just even effort-wise, but the time it takes to take a campaign live used to take a lot of time, which will get faster. If you were to put a number on, if total was 100 as an agency effort today, with AI, maybe 6 months or a year down the line, how much of that effort will come down? If you were to guess a number, what would that be?
Again, depends on the kind of work that we are trying to talk actually, and if everything is standardized and data being great, all of that being actually in that proper format, I think we'll be able to reduce roughly around 40% of.
Okay, 40%.
That's scary.
Yes,
I just
please.
add my perspective to it? So I have very simple, method of, understanding this. So if we put, machines and humans on 2x2 matrix, so you have humans interacting with humans, or say humans selling to humans. Then you have machines selling to humans, then humans selling to machine, and machine selling to machine. So machine selling to machine is the extreme example. That is like the end game. Ultimately, it will end there. Let me give you one example of that. How many of you buy or search or explore any tool in the market for your needs? Now, today you do it yourself, or someone from your team does it. They talk to a couple of folks in the market, also analyze what are your needs, and if there is a match, then you go into deeper discussion and finally buy that tool. Now the same thing can be done with the machine, with AI. And on the other hand also, the machine will be selling to you, where the machine will be helping you with your queries. Okay, what is the tool that best fits to my needs? So that is the extreme example. Now let's come to the lowest hanging fruits, where humans are selling to humans. Your contact center, for example, sales agent. Now, I'm not talking about replacing them. It is about aiding them, augmenting them with the right insight. That is the low-hanging fruit. Second would be the machine to human, where machines are selling to human. Go to any e-commerce site, that is a machine. The machine is selling to you. That is next low-hanging fruit. You can recommend, you can personalize, you can do many things, in that area. After that, maybe, where other, things into machine versus machine is happening, those are the areas. One more dimension to it I would like to add, since we talked about automation. Today, I think most of the AI is exploratory, because we are in wow. The general audience is in wow because they have experienced AI for the first time. And ChatGPT, Midjourney, all them, made it possible. Okay, here is AI, experience it. So it is more of a wow factor. Also at the same time, because the management is asking question, what are you doing on AI? It is a FOMO as well. Yeah, so it is FOMO as well. Now, whether you have thought through of your use cases, where it is going to help your business. And if we add automation layer to it, we are talking about creating content. But if you create that content with automation, then who is going to check that for your brand tonality, your experience? It is not there. So for experience exploration, it is good. But when it comes to doing it at scale, long way to go.
Thank you. So it's a wow factor. It is something which can enhance the experience. Yes, efficiency is still there, but not yet fully trustworthy to leave it alone. And I think we were talking on the back. You started by saying, I don't trust AI, okay. Period. No, I don't. So why do you want to elaborate?
Yes, sorry, just let me add one experience, because we were having a discussion with someone. We believe that AI cannot be manipulated. It can be. There are folks working on manipulating it. I know folks personally. I know brands personally who have deployed hundreds of folks in India to manipulate what the AI is talking about their brand. So it is to that level. It is happening. Some of the people
I'm
are
sure
doing
there will
it.
be next layers of
Exactly.
gaming the systems. But why don't you trust AI, Samriddh?
I think a bunch of reasons there. One, and let's remove trust as a word here. I don't think I can depend on AI, right? And I can depend on something once I start to really see meaning and value in it. I think that a couple of things. One, the Indian consumer set is extremely complicated. And AI has fundamentally been built on the back of a Western view, which, and I don't mean in a flippant manner, I genuinely mean that the engineering of it has fundamentally happened, looking at prompts which are English first, right spellings, right grammar, right syntax, etc., right? The data sets that have been fed to AI throughout, historically, are all English. Very few data sets are in Indic language. And potentially now we are looking at about 60-70% of search that's happening in India, whether it's products or services, happening in Indic languages, they're happening through voice. Interfaces are now being multilingual. A lot of communication that is going out from the brand to the end consumer needs to be in different dialects and different contexts. I don't think AI has matured to a point where it's able to look at all these variables And India is a land of variables, right? So we essentially change between kilometer to a kilometer. And it's not age group dependent, it's not potentially even your earning capacity dependent, which is what are the determinants of a lot of things when the West starts to look at consumer sets. Our consumer set dynamic and the diversity of it and the variability of it, I don't think AI has matured to a point where we can start to even imagine that's able to read all the indicators and really start to take those decisions. So the indicators that AI will get right now are so deeply complex, especially in an ecosystem that is being built, that that maturity of deciphering what that input really means and what is the next possible direction, whether it's a direction or action, which is scary, that the AI engine needs to take, I don't think it's matured to that. So it's not about trust, it's the fact that I don't think I can depend on it.
It's not matured yet.
Yeah.
No, that's good. And I wanted to keep a last 5 minutes for audience questions, but I'll just summarize what we just discussed. Performance marketing is obviously has been there and is here to stay. In the world of frugality, where all brands are thinking about how can I get my next set of growth with spending minimal amount of money, the pressure or performance pressure on performance marketing is here to stay. And I think what we discussed is that the lines of performance marketing versus brand marketing have already blurred, if not was always blurred. But the element of long-term thinking of brands and building like a 2-year, 3-year view is not the current, what we discussed is not the current game. It is about where can you get here and now, but which can be done through brand and performance marketing both. We discussed how Gen AI and AI as a topic has different perspectives, but one thing very consistent is the AI will definitely add very insightful direction or input into making better decisions. The decisions on how to spend, what is the consumer behaviors which used to take time. And second, it will probably add efficiency of anywhere between 25, you said, and 40, and take your pick. In terms of not just effort in terms of cost, and we clarified, it is also about efficiency in terms of accuracy of iterations of coming fast, about saving time. In campaign which used to take months or weeks to make could be in days or hours or minutes. I think those are efficiencies which are very real, and the maturity of AI for Indian language, Indian context is yet to evolve, but it's probably on its way. But that's what we discussed, and I would ask if any audience has any question for the panel on the performance marketing topic.
Since we have 2 minutes, so let me add one more.
Yes, sure.
Just,
Please.
When we talk about AI, it is not limited to Gen AI.
Yeah.
Because most of the discussions these days are focused on generative AI, because that is what people have experienced. For every organization, pricing is one of the key metrics, in order to, get users converted. And that is, one of the areas, where AI is being used extensively. But because we cannot experience it, hence, we do not know whether it is there or not.
Yeah.
So I think AI is beyond Gen AI, and those are the use cases, and those are the beyond Gen AI that is going to help businesses.
Yeah. No, fair point to add. And I think one of the elements which we also discussed, and I think that was very profound, is that performance marketing is all about measurement, and the measurement, the dynamics of that has changed. Without first party data, without the knowledge about a singular version of your customer, the power of performance marketing in a cookieless world will become already challenged and will become even more challenged. The data privacy laws which have just been enacted in India, and they will evolve with time. How well will you be able to track the customer on their behavior, on their actions, is also under question. So it is a very highly dynamic environment of performance marketing, and how the agencies and the brands will think about it and how consultants will help them is something which is what will be the time will tell. But it's a very important topic, a lot of money getting spent for getting the growth, and how will it evolve is something which we will have to work with. So Thank you, panel.
Absolutely, because see, going forward, consented identity is going to be the currency. It is not just the identity.
Yeah,
It is with consent as well.
correct.
Because with this bill, now you need to work on the consent part as well.
That will be a
consented
challenging
identity
for
would
many
be
other
the
brands if
future.
they have not thought it about it already, and for agencies and for even platforms like the ones which we have been used to using. So that will be a massive change, and we are already discussing with a bunch of our clients around what is it means for them, what practices will they still can continue with, not continue with, and the point around consent and data storage, data, where do you store it, how long can you use it for, etc. All of these are very important questions which will need to be answered. But thank you everyone for your deep insights. Hope it was insightful for the team as well.